Hello, our friends, Evolutionary Energy Arts family.
Hello there.
Hope everybody is doing well, and I hope everybody is safe out there.
Oh, we do. Gosh, we're seeing some crazy stuff.
Yes, we are. We sure are. I mean, it's been crazy for a long time, but the craziness just keeps going up.
It does. It just ratchets up one more, and then one more, and then one more.
Well, happy Lionsgate, everybody.
Yay.
Yay. So we see this here, Nebraskan safe after getting stuck in a flooded elevator. This had to be terrifying, but the kids seem to handle it really well. As, you got water up to your neck in an elevator. And obviously there's power. She's on the phone, emergency. Well, she's calling them, and you can see the lighted up panel there. That's really scary.
That's really horrible. And hopefully they're safe and sound right now.
They are. And, thankfully so. 3 Nebraska residents narrowly escaped a flooded elevator following an Omaha storm. KTRK TV reports an Omaha man on Saturday got into his apartment elevator with 2 friends to check out storm damage. Before the elevator opened, Tony Liu said the water started pouring in through the vents as they descended. He called on his roommate for help as they waited for emergency responders in neck-high water. His roommate and 2 other people managed to open the elevator door from the lobby, saving them. None were hurt. Wow. Well, there's always going to be these cases of people that don't lose their cool and stay focused and save others.
Mm-hmm. Which is incredible and amazing, and thank goodness.
Yeah, and this is just amazing when we see it going on. And it's a global thing. Actually, I got this out of order. So this is talking about the Greek wildfires, which are still going on, unable to be controlled. But here we have Omaha. And we have a lot of friends in this area. We have several, probably like 4 or 5 family members that live in this, either in Omaha itself or in the general area. So we're checking up on everybody, making sure everybody is okay. Our brother Andrew sent me a bunch of photos and stuff, and Andrew's been with us for years. And, he's never seen flooding like this. But then again, we had all that crazy flooding that devastated the crops.
Mm-hmm.
I believe that was 3 years ago already. Time is flying past so fast, isn't it?
Going fast.
It's incredible, and every single day we see these once in 100 or once in 1,000 year floods doing damage. As you see this post, and we see all those bricks, the damage is going to be massive. But thankfully no major injuries reported. And they are assessing the damage right now after this freak storm. And last night Andrew was sending me photos of the lightning, and he hadn't seen stuff like that before in that area, and lifelong resident there. And meanwhile, we have Lupit bringing more than 51 inches of rain in 2 days. We've seen that amount, roughly 4 feet in several areas in 2 days' time. Now, this again is due to a storm coming into Taiwan. And oh man, the damage here. This battered Taiwan August 5th to 7th. Destructive floods, landslides. This storm made 2 landfalls in China, first in Shantou and then again in Zhangzhou, before moving inland. And there's unfortunately a bunch of storms lined up taking aim at the area, the greater area. And you got to wonder, first thing when I was telling you about all this is this weather WAR fair going on, just ramping up. Mm-hmm. And it's just blasting these different areas. Yeah, there's a lot of stuff going on, of course, grand solar minimum. And I know there's new people to the channel all the time. I've been following the comments, and we see that there's new people that just came in the past week. And while we're thinking about it, please do subscribe to both channels as long as Evolutionary is up, as it feels like it's in the crosshairs, as we were not able to post to Evolutionary because of a video we did 3 years ago, which they gave us a strike for 3 years ago. That video's been up for 3 years, and they went ahead and, they're fine-tooth combing that channel, and they age restricted some others and removed a bunch of others, as they're doing their purge, so to speak. But please do subscribe to both this and Evolutionary, so you get these notifications, and we're going to keep bringing you everything that's going on, earth change, and perhaps artificially flavored as well. But in Taiwan, multiple bridges collapsing. You just have to watch some of these videos. I'll have the links for you guys. Bridges just swept away, swept away. You think about, and in my mind, I'm thinking about, wow, this is really going to impact logistically the movement of people, supplies, perhaps even defensive equipment, as it really feels like we're getting very, very close to perhaps seeing the taking back of Taiwan by the CCP.
Well, we watch all this stuff going on, and it just makes me think about all these infrastructure bills that are going through our own government. Is this a tit for tat and everybody's just preparing?
Well, the infrastructure here in the United States is atrocious. If you go to some other countries, especially in certain areas, if you go look at Dubai, if you go look in Asia, and you look at the beautiful things that have been done in some of the countries out there, we look like we're in the dark ages here, even, with all the taxation that goes on in this country, and yet you have billionaires not paying a dime, like, Jeff Bezos and many others. The system is so broken. Again, how could the masses of the world acquiesce to a system that is so top heavy, as far as, it just supports the billionaire class and the elite of the elite, and everybody else is basically living a feudalistic life. And, the only thing we're not doing these days is curtsying and bowing to Lord Redshield or Gil Bates and all these other, people that we know they don't have our best interest in mind. They have their own best interest. That's why they're buying up all the farmland. That's why they're buying up all the housing. We were talking to our realtor that helped us with our particular place, and she shared, hey, we had a closing that broke your record, which was the record for taking the longest she had ever seen before. So it's ongoing. Plain and simple, many of the banks, if not all the major banks, at the top levels, they know what's going on. And, they don't want to approve, in many cases, mortgages for average people. Why? Because there's a bigger plan going on. And the corporations and, entities like BlackRock, they're buying it all up. People like Gil Bates, they're buying up all the farmland. Others are buying up all the housing now, and then they're going to rent back to you at a rate that'll be double what your mortgage is, or maybe triple, as in the case with us, which would change our life dramatically. If we had to pay triple, if we had to pay the rent on this instead of the mortgage, then life gets very difficult, and we're not able to put 21 fruit trees and bushes in the backyard. We're not able to go ahead and, get a small greenhouse and be looking at a bigger greenhouse and get more grow lamps for growing indoors year round. And that's exactly what they want. Total control, absolute control over every little piece of your life.
I know they want people on that hamster wheel. They want them on the hamster wheel, stay on the hamster wheel, feed their energy, feed their businesses, and do nothing but that until cradle to grave,
That's exactly it. Indentured servitude is really the name of the game. As we see over here at Mount Merapi, heavy ashfall blankets nearby communities in Indonesia, more and more volcanoes are going online. Severe flash floods. This is in Mexico again. Look at that. you can't deny that since 2017, and that's really the year I think everything went crazy. 2016 felt like there was a little bit of a ramp up. There's been a constant ramp up. But in 2017, it's like the blank hit the fan big time, as we've seen just nonstop. Somebody pulled that video. But there are other videos here for you guys to check out. And going down into El Salvador, you see heavy flash floods and rains. Again, cars totally buried. How about croplands? You know, how about people's houses? How many people across the globe, because of what's happening, have been left homeless or turned into refugees? The refugee situation around the globe is just so stark and dramatic and severe. And, you know, let's send out our prayers and love to everybody that's going through this. New study says Jupiter's hot temperatures are caused by auroras, which is obviously related to solar activity. And this discovery has major implications for Earth's climate models. This is from Electroverse, which is a grand solar minimum channel that focuses on the grand solar minimum and is also focusing on showing just how silly the mainstream point of view they keep pushing is, you know, all about carbon emissions. And we've talked about, well, how about all the methane being released in Siberia alone? And when you look at the wildfires going on in Russia, they're massive. And so, you know, you got so much methane that's being released, which changes the atmosphere so much more. But eventually, it's all going to tend towards cooling. And so here we are talking about the Greek wildfires, which these are horrible this year. And, you know, this has just increased each year. Turkey, pretty much the same situation. Drone footage showing the second largest island, the destruction that's going on, threatening some very, very historical areas as well. 6 aircraft, 4 helicopters, 475 firefighters, 35 ground teams deployed to this island. And, you know, on a counterpart, I'm just looking over here at Greta and her antagonist, we could say. And, you know, it might surprise some of you guys to know, like, the bigger picture that's going on here. Not all things are as they appear. Not all people are as they appear. And there are many beings intermixed in with us that are not exactly what most people on Earth are.
Mm-mm. Oh, I know. It's pretty amazing what you start to understand when you've woken up and you can see things.
Yeah. So, you know, again, but, you know, I know a lot of you guys out there follow many other sources. You know, we could go way back to Phil Schneider, who passed on in a very horrible way. You know, I guess he was another person that, you know, they would say committed the S word, right?
Yes, yes.
Yeah, rubber hose to the neck,
Mm-hmm.
and somehow he found a way to make it so tight that he left the world.
He did.
Yeah, and meanwhile, he was really in extreme failing health. And but he blew the whistle on the fact of the deep underground military bases all throughout the country. He told us about the firefight at Dulce, New Mexico, between Gray's and our own military, where there was some sort of miscommunication that ended up taking the lives of quite a few people in the U.S. military, just by a couple Grays with their technology. Again, technology is the name of the game.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of different ET races here, by the way, and watching, many of them just watching because they want to see the show. As we see fire crews unable to control the blaze over here, and you know, it's such a gorgeous area. Greece is just an amazing area, so historical, and unfortunately not able to control the blaze as of the moment. By the way, it's been very quiet so far this year. Here we are, August 8th. Happy Lionsgate.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
August 8th, 8821 2021. And so far so quiet, but it doesn't mean it's going to stay that way. So we have a trio of tropical disturbances to watch in the Atlantic Basin. Remember all that dust particles, all the dust particles again this year that were coming off of sub-Saharan Africa and making their way over in a cloud, well, that definitely suppresses the storms. And so now we haven't had that for a bit, and things are, clearing up a little, and so now we see the chances of development of these storms. Right now, both the first and second one have a 30% chance of development. Right now, they're showing the third at 0%. But the point is, don't let down your guard, because it might come in like a lamb and end like a lion, so to speak, as far as this hurricane season goes.
Stay ready.
Most definitely, especially you along the Gulf Coast. So, and gosh, we had so many last year. It was ridiculous. All the ones that hit Louisiana, for instance. Minor volcanic eruptions could cause global catastrophe, and these are some of the hot spots. As you see, Pacific Northwest, North Atlantic, Iceland area, China, Korea, Taiwan, Luzon in the Philippines, Malaysia, and also the Mediterranean. And, it doesn't always have to be the biggest eruption. So within the volcanic risk literature, the typical focus of attention for global scale catastrophes has been on large scale eruptions with a volcanic explosivity index, VEI, of 7 to 8, which is relatively rare. However, many key critical infrastructures and networks, shipping passages, submarine cables. Well, you'll be hearing a lot more about submarine cables in the future, because that's one of the targets that happens when there is conflict going on. And aerial transportation routes all converge in regions where they could be exposed to moderate scale eruptions 3 through 6. So there's a new study that just warned about certain areas to watch, 7 critical areas. Taiwan, again, there's a volcanic cluster in the far north of Taiwan that could bring global tech industry to a halt. By the way, home to one of the largest electronic chip producers. Mediterranean, we've had so many issues with chips, haven't we? As we heard about cars just being all assembled, waiting for their chips, and just packed away in droves. Mediterranean, Vesuvius, watch for Vesuvius. Santorini, they could cause tsunamis. These eruptions could not only destroy submerged cable networks, but even block the Suez Canal. There you go again. We saw that before. Pacific Northwest. Yes, eruptions in U.S. state of Washington, Pacific Northwest could trigger mud flows and ash clouds that blanket Seattle, closing airports and seaports. Scenario modeling for a magnitude 6 eruption of Mount Rainier predicts potential economic losses of more than $7 trillion over 5 years. That would be a mess, an absolute mess. Malaysia, Indonesia as well. That's one of the busy sea passage areas. The Strait of Luzon in the Philippines as well. It's the heart of all major submerged cables connecting China, Hong Kong, Taiwan, Japan, and South Korea. China and North Korea border, which is also a volcanic region. And that could also disrupt one of the busiest air routes in the east there. And then Iceland, again, it could paralyze flights and cause $5 billion loss to the global world economy, like happened in 2010 with an eruption. And we see a lot of activity over in Iceland for sure. And by the way, just because you're in the east of the U.S., you still should be concerned about quakes. And this is touching on some of the areas. And you can see when you look at the very highest hazard, there you go, Charleston area, South Carolina, and New Madrid. And the New Madrid, when it went off years ago, it sent bells ringing all the way up in Boston, because this is some of the oldest, basically, foundational rock on the planet. On the planet. I mean, it's thought that the Appalachian Mountains are the oldest mountains. Now, when we're talking about like the Ozarks and stuff, they're technically more hills when you get down to it, but they're even thought to be perhaps a little bit older. Yet they're worn down so low now that they don't really qualify. But again, certain areas in the east, you got to be very, very aware of it. And you see this whole yellow patch in here as well. There's a lot of ancient faults there that can be awakening. And of course, that's, an area right by the border of Tennessee and western North Carolina. So in November 1755, a quake with about a 6.0 magnitude hit Boston, and Boston was heavily damaged. The damage done in the East in a comparable magnitude is typically more than that in the West. And it's because of the rock itself. And then, of course, in the winter of 1811, 1812, a series of 3 powerful quakes of magnitudes of about 7 to 7.8, and hundreds of aftershocks occurred in New Madrid, Missouri. They were so strong that observers reported that the land distorted into visible rolling waves. They changed the course of the Mississippi River, creating a vast area of ground deformation and liquefaction, and they were felt widely along the east coast of the U.S., about 1,000 miles away. That's huge. So, be very aware of your surroundings, most definitely. And then here we see B-52s lead new U.S. air power onslaught to stop the Taliban in their advances in Afghanistan as they captured 3 cities in briefly period of time. And so, we pull troops out, but we keep bombing.
Mm-hmm.
Some things never change.
Nope.
Some things never change. And the thing that needs to change is the leadership of this globe. China's submarines attempt to shadow UK aircraft carrier heading into the Pacific, so claims the British media. Chinese nuclear power submarines tried to secretly follow the UK, aircraft carrier HMS Queen Elizabeth. That was moving into the Pacific Ocean. They were soon identified. And again, this is part of this ramping up that we see going on. And we see on Friday, U.S. Air Force Chief of Staff General Charles Q. Brown Jr. said China had noticeably ramped up its military capabilities, leaving the U.S. behind. This is again what they're shooting out to us and getting us to put into our mind and data bank. Pentagon believes AI can predict world events. As an ex-military intelligence analyst on Iraq and USSR, he's more than skeptical. We've talked about Scott Ritter before, who is writing for RT, which is Russia today. And again, he worked under General Schwarzkopf back in the Gulf War and was the UN's weapon inspector as well. So he's deep in there. And this begs to answer ask many questions, So if AI is saying things like, hey, you only have a 35 chance in 100 of defeating China, and that's if you act right now. If you act within the next 3 to 6 months, do you think that they will go ahead and act on it? Because really, the way it does look is that the longer things go, the less likely it is that the U.S. and NATO would end up beating China and Russia and the other countries that would be aligned with it. The reality is it's always just a war on humanity. Because again, the average Russian citizen, the average person in China, and the average person in the U.S. and everywhere we look, they just want peace. They just want to be able to enjoy their lives. How many, especially when we look way back. If we look back a little bit farther, but I guess it still basically counts for this world too. We would often see these wars started by jealous kings, queens, earls, dukes, often siblings, whether we're talking medieval Europe, whether we're talking Rome, fighting amongst themselves, raising armies, right? As Sassy's dreaming about this right now. Raising armies, they fight amongst each other. They have these wars in which countless peasants die, right? Because they're conscripted. When a land gets taken over, then they're levied taxes. Not only levied taxes, often they're levied a certain amount of males that have to go fighting for the conquerors. And what will happen when one side beats the other side? Well, usually they let the rulers go, and they might even come up with agreements. Okay, we're going to split this area 60-40. All right, are you good with that? Yeah, okay, I'm good with that. And then they just move on. Meanwhile, all the peasants that had died, oh well, this is how they view the average people of the world as cannon fodder. They really do. I mean, think about this. And then again, did Hitler really commit suicide? Or was he really seen in some Argentinian nightclubs having a great time? And did he really actually die in the 60s? Or later, perhaps? That's a big question. But see, this has gone on forever with, again, the elite and the masses. And it's because they don't view themselves as being the same as us. New Russian ICBM to enter combat service in 2022. We keep seeing stuff like this. 208-ton Sarmat can carry 16 warheads. Operational range of 18,000 kilometers. So effectively, it could kind of hit almost anywhere. And they're entering service. And I follow all this. There is such a buildup going on. It's staggering right now. Staggering. And the picture that's being painted is that Russia and China are running away with technology. And again, I keep thinking about what the guides told me. It's all the Trojan horse scenario. Again, there's 400 plus million small arms in the United States. 338 million US citizens. The amount of armed US citizens would actually dwarf the amount of armed people in the current CCP army or in the Russian army. But then we go back to 2005 and a Chinese general made the statement that they weren't investing in aircraft carriers. They were investing in biologicals, and we'll just leave it at that. And that's how the first wave would come through, and perhaps the next couple waves. It would be all that first, because they would have to soften things up. If you're watching a fight, and if you're watching MMA, you'll see that wise fighters often attack the legs and the body first before going for the headshots. They soften things up. Meanwhile, we have France and Italy swept by mass protests against the health pass, as libertés don't really exist, right? Pour la liberté vaccinale. Yeah, well, it's again a case of do as we say, not as we do. But people are taking to the streets and they are voicing their concerns. At least some are. Meanwhile, 2/3 of Americans are just going to continue to mask up if they are sick, even when everything stops. Talk about conditioning. Conditioned response. It's fascinating. You could train mice to go through mazes in time. Hey, they go the wrong way, bzz, they get electric shock. Okay, eventually they're not going to go that way anymore. They won't even look at that way. And what if that way is totally cleared out? Well, they're not even going to look down that road anymore. And again, do as we say, not as we do. DJ posts stealth pics of Obama's epic 60th birthday party before being forced to delete them. Uh-oh, what's going on there? Is it a little CGI, or I don't know. Is some little critter coming in? Invasion of the Body Snatchers? Is something going to come running out of his chest or out of his mouth? Or is he going to shed this bodysuit and we're going to see scaly skin?
Yeah, it's a little CGI. Somebody's having fun.
Yeah, this is on Martha's Vineyard. As a child, I got to go there once. And pretty area, of course, like the Hamptons. It's an area where there's a lot of the elite and the rich and famous, getting to see what's on the menu and how they, the 1/10 of 1%, live, right? Meanwhile, we have displaced Syrian children holding tent Olympics. As many as 120 boys from 12 different camps gathered for their versions of the Olympic Games as Tokyo ends And there's a whole generation in certain areas out there in the Middle East and Syria, Afghanistan, Iraq, other places as well. They're growing up in tent cities. This is all they know. All they know is tent cities. All they know is life as a refugee without a real permanent home. Yet some of the kids are still making the best of it, as it looks like they've constructed a little soccer field there in the desert.
Well, being poor sure builds a lot of character. You get really creative, you get extremely resourceful. I don't think there's anything wrong with growing up poor. I think it makes for really good people, actually.
It sounds like you're talking from experience there. Yeah, we were always week to week. My parents never owned a house. They never owned anything. They only owned one car ever. So um, yeah, it does make you appreciate. And yet we always had food on the table, and that was their priority, was taking care of that. And they always managed to find a way to live in an area that they shouldn't have been able to live in, as far as, a safe area that they thought afforded a better opportunity for their kids. Researchers discover microbes with properties that may help fix DNA mutations. This I thought was really, really interesting because, as we know, um, there's a lot of things going on right now that are attacking our DNA, and much of it is due to ow. I thought you said that wasn't going to hurt.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it doesn't hurt too bad
Right.
now, anyway. And some people don't get it when we say things like this, or I feel too that when we give an opinion on, say, the biggest question out there, trying to think of a way of putting it, to do something or not to do something. That is the question in many people's minds. And at some point, many people will give up, well, anything to have their way of life, unfortunately. As I know friends that have decided to do it, and it's disconcerting, in order to do the things they like to do, travel the places they like to travel, go, where they want to go, when they go. There was a cruise that I saw. There was a report coming out of this cruise. Everybody had chosen to do this certain thing, and there was still a huge breakout,
Mm-hmm.
regardless. Um, and again, I know that there are bots out there and there are people on payroll that want to try to get us to say things that are going to lead to trouble and the elimination of us, because that's what their job is. There's a ton of people out there right now. I wonder how many people are on the payroll monitoring all sorts of social media, looking for potential, what they would view as problems, people that are actually trying to expose the bigger picture. So what hit me was source, the true source, the God with the big G, has a plan for this planet, for instance, in this whole sector of our galaxy, our solar system, this area. And it goes through periodic downturns where we go deep into a period of darkness, and then we come out of it and we head up towards a period of light and enlightenment. And there's a lot of different ways they could do this. The cosmic rays coming in are changing our DNA. They're causing positive mutations, in my opinion. When you talk about DNA mutations and you go look and Google and all the different search engines, they're all being basically censored to the highest degree possible nowadays. And things that don't fit the mainstream way of looking at things are being removed left and right. Just incredible amounts. Everything is negative when it comes to DNA mutation. They don't view anything in a positive light, yet there are humans coming out with 3 and 4 strand DNA now, and eventually it's going to go up to 12 strand DNA from our understanding. And as I've said before, there are legends out of the Far East of beings like these Taoist immortals, and even human in general, in legends out of the Far East talking about humans in the Golden Age. Well, humans in the Golden Age could literally fly by thinking of flying. It's pretty amazing when you think about it. So this was an interesting study because it made me think that maybe, things as small as microbes are part of the plan as well to restore things back to the original plan, even after perhaps interference from the dark side inducing certain mutative effects on our DNA in a negative way.
Well, it would seem only fair if, if there's a polarity to everything, that something like this would reveal itself. So I think that's a good thing.
Yeah, so this is interesting. In some areas, they found these microbes which have the ability to correct aberrations in DNA and RNA. And again, DNA is a program. Think of it as like a biological computer program that could change as we go. If you're doing mantras on a regular basis, you're changing your DNA. If you're doing affirmations on a regular basis, you're changing your DNA. If you're exercising on a regular basis, you're changing your DNA. It's pretty wild. They say that these organisms might have been around since the beginning of life on the planet 2.5 billion years ago, and in deep underground, underwater locations. Just interesting. So I wanted to invite you guys, in case you haven't check out our website, evolutionaryenergyarts.com. Going to be seeing about doing more with this. There's a lot of testimonials here, and we have dozens more that we have to post. We just haven't gotten to it as we try to prioritize getting a video out every day, which in this world it's been tough and in our particular circumstances, but we're trying to, because it's our primary mission. Well, it's twofold: educating others to the reality of the world around them, exposing the system, and we look at the comments, and I could tell when the comments are from people that are on certain alphabet soup payrolls. Oh, you guys, they take the standard way, or sometimes people are just plain old so indoctrinated they can't see or understand anything. They just cannot. Seeing, they do not see. Basically, if you want to go from a biblical point of view. And thank you guys for your orders at Medicinal Foods. Lots of good stuff here, which could help the health, help with detoxing, help with boosting your energy, by the way. And boy, does it make a difference what you put in your body. It really makes a difference. Even Cindy and I, when we were getting kind of worn out from being on the road so much and living in the 100 square foot camper for so long, with the issues that we had, we ate out too much. We admit it, we did. Now that we're able to do things our way, our bodies are responding, and starting to feel just freaking amazing again. The energy that I'm feeling is awesome, and it's all about what you put in your body and what you put in your mind as well.
Oh gosh, it totally starts from within on many different levels. You really do need to put the good stuff in to get the good stuff out.
Most definitely. And we couldn't do it without your support over on Patreon as well as Ko-Fi. It makes all the difference in the world. We have had some people reach out to us, and they ask, they would say that they want to set up an appointment and then want to do things other than going through Ko-Fi, which goes directly to our PayPal. Where can I mail a check to? But we've been told by the guides, never give out your location. Again, we've had many instances of bizarre things going on. We've found ammo inside my short pocket that I left in the office, for instance, 3 little pieces of lead, and that was at a time when we were living with Cindy's mom. So I took it to be one for each of us if we didn't, keep quiet or whatever. Yeah, we don't give out our exact location, because that would just be stupid. And the guides have told us never give out your exact location. So, we can't do things like give out a mailing address. I did have a mailing address when I was in North Carolina, but we had a family get together there. And then at around midnight, there were shots ringing out on the property that were unexplained. So again, you got to be careful in the world. And as I've shared with you guys too, I've had a car when I was in Florida 2 days after a certain group that starts with an I and ends with an I reached out to me for recruitment and said, we're going to send you towards Atlanta. There's a mentor there that will let you know everything you need to know and all your needs will be taken care of. And I turned it down. 2 days later, a car rams through the fence, the wrought iron fence across the street in a park, does donuts, and is heading straight towards my office window when thankfully it seemed to hit an invisible wall and go bouncing down the street, taking out mailboxes and small trees and everything before being abandoned. So again, we've run into thing after thing after thing. We know that we have big targets on ourselves. So we have to be as careful as possible. That's why we really only use PayPal um, for setting up, appointments and all.
And there is a guest login on PayPal too if you don't have a PayPal account, or you can just use your credit card. So.
Yeah, exactly. So we thank you guys for your patience with that and also for getting scheduled. Thank you for being part of the family. As always, stay prepared as much as possible. Keep holding on to the light. That light is non-denominational, by the way. It doesn't adhere to any one human dogma.
Right.
It's free for all that just basically want to go to a heart-centered way of living that's based on compassion and love and heading towards unity consciousness. God bless and namaste.
Namaste.